14 seconds to glory. On that sweltering Tuesday night, the mat was crowded. The sound of bare feet brushing the floor, of grunts and focused breathing, of instructors barking out commands, echoed through the dojo like a storm of discipline and purpose. Laughter rang from one side of the room, the careless kind, the kind that doesn't expect to be silenced. But at the very back, near the wall where old black and white photos of past champions hung, a different kind of stillness took form. There stood David, a skinny black teenager with shoulders slightly hunched, not from fear but from years of quiet resilience. His eyes didn't dart. They focused, not on the noise, not on the stairs, but on something deeper. A fire that no one else could see. The fire of someone who had been forged in silence. From his very first step into that dojo, David had been overlooked. He was the smallest, the quietest, the one they didn't bother to learn the name of. "Jiu-jitsu's not for you, Twig." Some would smirk. "You gonna run or fight today, boy?" Others would laugh, their words laced with venomous condescension. And David? He never replied, not once. His answers were always on the mat. He trained when the others slacked. He stayed after class when no one was watching. He practiced drills on invisible opponents in the quiet of his bedroom. Every throw, every lock, every breath, etched into muscle memory like prayer. Weeks turned into months, months into years. And then came that day, the final test for the black belt, the ultimate measure. Students lined up nervously, each aware that today could either crown their efforts or expose their weaknesses. The judges were seated, stoic and focused, veteran masters with years of battle behind them, and among the students one challenger stood tall, or perhaps too tall. He was David's rival, bigger, louder, always laughing at him, always mocking. To him, David was a joke, an easy warm-up. He flexed for the audience, threw a wink at the judges, whispered something cruel under his breath just before stepping onto the mat. And David? He just nodded. Then the referee's voice cut through the tension. "Begin." The timer started. 14 seconds. That was all David needed. In the first 2 seconds, he studied his opponent's eyes, burning with arrogance, not awareness. By second 5, he'd already evaded a sloppy strike with the ease of someone who had trained for this moment his whole life. At 7 seconds, he slipped under and swept the larger boy's legs with surgical precision, a move so smooth it seemed choreographed by fate itself. At 12 seconds, David had mounted. His opponent panicked, thrashing, shocked. At 14 seconds, the slap rang out. Tap, 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 the universal sign of surrender. Silence dropped like a curtain. Mouths hung open. Students stared, frozen in disbelief. The same boys who once mocked him now stood speechless. The laughter that had once followed David now dissolved into reverent stillness. The head instructor, an old master with calloused hands and eyes like stone, slowly stood. Tears shimmered in his eyes. He had seen champions rise, but tonight he had witnessed something different. David stood slowly, not triumphant, transformed. He didn't smile. He didn't raise his arms. He simply bowed. A boy who knew that this moment was never about vengeance. It was about vindication, because the belt tied around his waist wasn't just black. It was the color of every insult he absorbed, every doubt he endured, every fight he fought outside the mat, in the shadows, in silence. That black teenager didn't just win a match. He rewrote the narrative. He became the story. He proved that greatness doesn't always shout. Sometimes, it whispers. In 14 seconds. And to most watching, it was just another fight. But to David, it was the echo of a lifetime finally heard. It was everything he'd ever needed to say, without saying a word.